Hello BookTube and welcome to a new video, and this is one I'm really excited about because it's a challenge I did for the first time last year and so enjoyed it and got so much out of it that I've been waiting for it to happen this year, and that is Non-Fiction November, which is being hosted by several people including a Book Olive and Andrea at Infinite Text, whose video was the one I watched, and I will post links to both of those. And also I've just seen today, Sunday, that Andrea's posted her TBR, so I'll post a link to that as well. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. So I normally read, to judge by the last 2 years, about 18% of all my books are non-fiction. And although I'm an author, I'm not really someone who reads an awful lot of non-fiction for research. I tend to do it online. Bit like a magpie, pick and choose bits that I need to research. Although, having said that, I have read one non-fiction book this year for the Work in Progress, which was a book on a basic introduction to phenomenology, and possibly one of my 4 choices that I'm going to reveal here might also end up being sort of partial research. So what I particularly like about this challenge is it's based on one word challenge, prompts, which leaves it very open to your interpretation, because unlike with fiction, non-fiction encompasses everything, all knowledge, so it's kind of hard to sort of specify and send people down very specific tracks because they might not be interested in reading that. So last year the 4 prompt words were truth, design, sport, and I can't remember the other one, but the books I read, so for truth I read this, 1,000 Years of Non-Linear History, which does what it says on the tin and offers an alternative way of thinking about all of human history. And I'll post the link to my review of these last year on one video. Sport was A Game of Two Halves, which I listed in my TBR but wasn't actually able to read until February this year because it was a book I bought for my son. He took it off to university with him and didn't come back till Christmas. And then I didn't get round to reading it till February, but I knew I would be reading this for my non-fiction November, even though it got extended to February. Design was this, Publishing Manifestos, which was a book both on the sense of manifestos about publishing and what books are in a digital age and all that sort of thing, but also about how manifestos, not necessarily about publishing, but certain artistic ones were published, or one for a sort of an African, all African continent newspaper and things like that, how they were published, pre-digital age. And this was the 4th one. I can't remember what the prompt was, but it's William S. Burroughs and the Cult of Rock and Roll, which is actually formed part of my book giveaway. Okay, so that was last year, and I read all 4, and I intend to read against the 4 prompts for this one. The first one is time, and nothing stretches time more than insomnia, and I'm an insomniac, as is Blake Butler, the fiction author, but this is non-fiction. And I've had this book for about 3 months now, but because I'm going through a really bad bout of insomnia, I haven't felt like picking it up because it might sort of make my insomnia even worse, if that's possible. Let's put it this way, it's unlikely to ameliorate my current bout of insomnia, but come November, if I'm still not sleeping very well, this book can't make things any worse, because it would have been going on for so long now that it's beyond sort of redemption. So that is my book about time, because when you're lying in bed not able to sleep, time crawls. And normally the rate of time during the day you're filling it up with activities or thoughts or just sort of vegging out in front of a TV or whatever. When you're lying in bed, none of that is available except the thoughts that sort of exploding through your head, keeping you awake. So the next word is buzz, and what could be buzzier than music? So this is Kim Gordon, Girl in a Band. Kim Gordon was the bassist and one of the original 3 members of Sonic Youth, which was always a quartet. And she was married to Thurston Moore, who was one of the other original members. And she definitely wasn't just a girl or a girlfriend in the band. She had equal writing credit, equal vocal duties, etc., etc. So she was very much an equal partner. So it's a slightly ironic use of the concept of girl or girlfriend in a band, except that Thurston Moore ended up what we say as stepping out on her, and they got divorced and the band ended. Now, I'd looked at this book, I'm a big Sonic Youth fan. I'd looked at this book for a long time, considered reading it, but never got round to actually investing in it until last week, because I'd seen Kim Gordon talking about it in interviews on YouTube, and she could barely string 2 words together, and I thought, well, that doesn't augur very well. But I happened to mention this book in my Q&A for a 1,000 subscribers video last week, and one of my correspondents commented in saying, no, she can write, don't be put off by that. So thank you to Erratum who pointed that out to me. So with alacrity, I finally took the plunge and invested. So this is buzz. Obviously, music, rock music, pop music is all about buzz, to get to the top of the charts. But also there's an extra sense of buzz with this band, because in their early days, when their music was at its most interesting, was all about feedback through the speakers, guitar feedback. So a lot of buzz, literally. The third word is movement, and I haven't got just one movement, I've got several movements, because this is the Penguin 100 Artist Manifestos, from the futurist to the stuckist, so many movements. Not unrelated in some ways to publishing manifestos, although this is specifically about art movements. So there are the futurists, the Dadaists, the surrealists and the stuckists. It's quite a big book, it's almost 500 pages, or 450 or something. I won't necessarily be reading all of it from cover to cover during November, because, for example, I'm not interested in the stuckists whatsoever. I'm interested in the futurists, because they seem to be very symptomatic of modernism and the sort of mechanisation of warfare that we ended up with in the Second World War and the First World War, I suppose, to some extent. But there's an awful lot of these manifestos are futurist ones. It seems that anyone who called himself a futurist produced a manifesto. I'm not sure about the surrealist one, because I'm not that interested in surrealism. I have a deep distrust of dreams as being any kind of creative font of the imagination. I just think dreams are a sort of processing of the unwieldy, unresolved stuff of the day, and sort of cramming them into filing cabinets of the mind through the, literally jamming these things that don't fit together just in order to, put them away. I may read the surrealist one. I may read the Breton one, because I think he had a bit more to him than most of the surrealists. So I'm looking forward to this. Now, I'm a writer who doesn't go the conventional way of the novel. I don't use a lot of the conventional elements of novel writing and structure. And at various points I've always wondered about whether I should put out a manifesto, but I've always thought it's a bit pretentious. And also, although these are things I believe in for my novel writing, I don't expect or demand that all novelists have to follow my rubric. The beauty of any art form is each individual practitioner can take it in any way. So the concept of publishing a manifesto, almost with the demand, there's nothing wrong with iconoclasm, of challenging the established beliefs about any art form. I'm totally down with that. But what's the point of being iconoclastic if you then erect your own sculptures of self and ego, and you should be pulling down your own statues just as much. So, as I say, I've always avoided publishing a manifesto. I thought one of the ways around that was actually to do a sort of an online video or set of videos talking about each of the elements of novel writing. So almost as a guide or a teaching thing, which is less sort of propulsive than a manifesto. But we'll read this and we'll see if I get inspired, and I may yet end up producing a manifesto of the contemporary 21st novel. I doubt it, but we'll see. And finally, the word is discover. And I've gone for some philosophy. Friedrich Nietzsche thus spoke Zarathustra. So I, in my 20s, had read The Twilight of the Idols, and it was completely over my head, and I've never picked up Nietzsche since. But increasingly I find he enters my consciousness as other people are sort of quoting him or referring to him. And indeed he appears in my last work that I finished but is unpublished, and in my work in progress. So I figured, well, I better actually, you know, go back and read in detail. Everyone knows him as the guy who loved Wagner and then fell out with Wagner, and the guy who pronounced God is dead. But there's a lot more to him, and then these are the things I've been coming across, as I say, in reference. So this may form part of my research for the work in progress, which is temporarily on hold because I've got another book coming out in April which needs my focus. What I've been told about this book is that it's actually probably one of his easier books to read, because it almost reads sort of like a novel more than sort of philosophy. So I'm looking forward to that. So there you have it. That is my non-fiction November. I intend to read all 4 prompts, books of the prompts. For Time, I have Nothing, a book of insomnia by Butler. For Buzz, I have Kim Gordon, Girl in a Band, which will be my first of the 4 I think I will get to. For Movement, I have 100 Artist Manifestos, as in art movements. And for Discover, I'm going to discover, or at least attempt to discover, Friedrich Nietzsche. Okay, so there you have it. Thanks very much. Till next time.